This week's episode of The Grid is sponsored by Impix. Shoot today, upload tonight, we ship tomorrow. Manfrotto, imagine more. On One Software, software that gets you back to shooting. Adorama, more than a camera store. And Tiffin, helping create the world's greatest images.
Hey everybody, and welcome to The Grid. Now, you're probably wondering, that's not the Grid set.
It's not?
We brought too much love today to fit on the Grid set. Also known as a couple of hangers-on.
No, you called
Come on, that was good.
What else did you call them before? You said two men of various levels of masculinity.
Yes, yes.
Which level am I?
Various.
Whichever one you'd like to be. Okay, well, welcome everybody. We have a very, very special show. We are very, very excited to have two industry icons in with us today. To my left, a man who needs no introduction, so I won't. No, to my right.
Sorry.
Was that a cat sound? That was good. Oh my God, turn off your phone.
Just one little cat sound it was supposed to be.
To my left, we were very honored to have with us Trey Ratcliffe. Trey, how you doing, man?
Hey, Scott. How's it going?
He's here in the flesh.
Trey, I'm not going to shake your hand like I haven't seen you since last night.
Well,
I didn't
let's
see him
not
last
talk
night.
about that.
Actually, I did see him last night on my flight back home from San Francisco.
Yeah, you did.
And Brad goes over my seat and goes, Trey's on our flight. And I said, we have to get on another flight. Also joining us, a photographer of some ill repertoire. Ill repute. A man, a legend, Joe McNally.
Hello, Scott. Hello.
Great. Oh, great. You're bringing a lot to the table. Hey, before we get started, Joe has got a brand new book coming out. He just got the proof of the cover. Here it is, Sketching Light. And that's it right there. You can pre-order it right now?
Yeah, it is. It's on pre-order, and it's been a good week because I actually really, honest to goodness, finished it.
That is a good week.
Oh my goodness.
Anytime you finish a book before it goes to presses.
You know. Yeah.
So, hey, when do you think we're going to see it on the streets? December?
It'll be out in December around maybe the 10th, 12th, 15th, someplace in there.
All right. Is that a perfect Christmas gift? Go ahead and order 2 copies now because you're going to want one. You're going to want to give one to somebody else.
Send me a copy for Christmas?
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right. So, we're very happy to have Trey and Joe joining us today. And that's why we're in this room. We really couldn't fit very well on the Grid set because it's kind of snug and stuff like that. Now,
This isn't snug?
This is a tad snug, but it's not quite as snug as it would have been.
If you're me right now, it's feeling pretty snug.
Yeah. So, hey, Trey's only here for the first part of the show today. So Trey has got another thing to do. So it's cooler people he's going to be hanging out with. So I don't want to spend a whole lot of stuff up here. I just want to mention a couple things before we get started. Number one, you can join the conversation by sending us anything on Twitter to # The Grid Live, the # The Grid Live. It'll come to us, or you can do it right here on the website as you're watching. We have with us today Nancy Massey, the International Ambassadoress of Love. Nancy.
Hi.
We're just leaving you hanging.
You know,
I don't know what to do with you today,
it's
Nancy.
so
You're
weird. I'm
close.
so used. I know.
Your camera's right there. Just look
That's
right
your
at that
camera.
one.
That's your camera.
It's just so weird. I
know.
feel so
Connected?
meep.
Us too. Also, Brad Moore's helping us out, but Brad Moore does not get a camera. Wait, there we go. Come on, come on. He's running. Oh, there he is. There's Brad. All right. So there's a cameo from Brad Moore is helping us out here on the set as well. Pete Collins, thankfully, is not here. Okay, so
Don't listen to him anyway.
We've got some wild things coming up. I do want to mention a couple things. If you are in Seattle, if you're anywhere near Seattle, I'm there on Monday. Come see me at my seminar, Light It, Shoot It, Retouch It. I haven't been to Seattle in years, and so I'm very excited to be there, so come by. You can go find out more at kelbytraininglive.com or just kelbytraining.com.
Yep.
Click on seminars. You are where?
I'll be in Philadelphia on December 1st with the Lightroom 3 Live seminar. So
There you
December
go.
1st, Philadelphia, same website. Just go.
Joe, where are you next?
I'm here. I'm staying here for the foreseeable future. I didn't tell you guys that.
Oh, good. No, it's okay. We like you.
Yeah. No, I'm
Trey,
just
where are
gonna
you?
keep
You're
on
doing
it.
something. You're always doing something. You can't even stay for the whole damn show.
I'll be celebrating Thanksgiving from my brother-in-law's house.
Oh, nice. And we'll be broadcasting live from his
Right.
brother-in-law's house.
What are you
Yeah.
doing on Friday after? You going shopping?
Maybe on the internet.
Yeah.
Does
On
anyone
the
shop in
internet.
real life anymore?
No, that's
Internet.
ridiculous.
Yeah, sweet
Hey,
Amazon.
we've got a wild topic today, but before we get to our topic, I've been getting so many people. Just now, just sat down, and people are calling me out on this why haven't you talked about Adobe's new pricing and all that stuff?
Yeah.
And I saw one that said, Scott Kelby has been, very,
Curiously quiet.
Curiously quiet. Here's why I was curiously quiet. I was shooting a football game on Saturday, or on Sunday. I was traveling all day Saturday and was at Google, and then I taught a seminar, and this is the first day I'm back. And I thought I'd rather do it here than write 2,500 words on my blog. Here's what I want to just say real quickly, and Matt, you can chime in, Trey or Joe. I know, Joe, you feel very strongly about Adobe pricing.
I do.
Is this. So
Adobe?
Adobe doesn't call us, doesn't call up Matt and Scott and go, hey guys, what do you think of this idea for pricing?
No, it doesn't happen very often.
No. So we kind of learned about it right about when you did. So I haven't had any time to really look into it. I think there are some good things about it. I think the subscription model is really great. And by the way, you might as well get used to the subscription model.
It's coming for everything.
Because that is the wave of the future. You're going to be subscribing to everybody's software. I think the days, especially when big people like Adobe move into that thing, I think the days of you going to the store and buying a piece of software off the shelf, it's either going to be direct download or subscription. And everybody wants the subscription model because it gives you them revenue all year long.
Well, it's predictable. They know January through December what they're going to get.
And that is my guess. Now, I haven't talked to Adobe on this. Nobody in Adobe's pricing department said this, but I can imagine the reason why Adobe did this is a couple of things. Number one is, and this is where all the controversy about it. I don't think it's the pricing so much. I haven't heard anybody gripe because it's like $50 a month and you get everything they do. Right, you get everything. You get like the whole master collection and all. Again, I didn't look at all the numbers, so I could be a little wrong.
But it's ballpark, and if you were to add up what it would cost you to buy the master collection, I mean, it actually, in some ways, can save you money.
And I know that there's some other upgrade things about Photoshop, but honestly, I really haven't had a chance to look at it. But I wanted to say, number one, I haven't been like not doing the topic. It's just this is my first chance to address it. Number two is, I think the big controversy is if you have CS4. That I believe, and I could be wrong, you have to upgrade to CS 5.5 first before you can join the subscription thing.
That's what it seems like.
That's what it seems like to me, and I could be wrong. So here's what I'd say about that, because I know a lot of people are upset about it. I don't know that this is what Adobe's thoughts are, but I'm going to tell you what I think Adobe's thinking. Adobe's thinking, if you haven't upgraded in years, if you're like a CS3 customer or a CS4 customer, you were a customer years ago. But you're not really our customer now. Their customers now are using CS5 or CS5.5 because there's been CS5 and CS5.5. So this is what I think Adobe's thinking. I'm not saying this. I'm saying I think what Adobe's thinking. So they're thinking, how can I make those people my customers now? I need to get them to upgrade to 5.5, and then we have the subscription plan. That's what my thinking is that they're thinking. Adobe didn't tell me that. Anyway, how do I feel about it? Well, it's weird because we only train on the newest version of Photoshop. So I'd like everybody to be on the newest version of Photoshop. I don't get any money from it. I don't get it's not like if you upgrade to 5 in the subscription,
we get a certain cut. Yeah, no, that doesn't happen.
But I mean, it's like anything else. When a new camera comes out, when Canon comes out with their new camera, which I saw, do you shoot Canon? You shoot Canon.
I'm a Nikon.
You're a Nikon guy?
Yeah.
When Canon comes out with their new camera, which I saw at Photo Plus for a moment, the training on the old one will be gone.
Yeah.
When Nikon finally replaces either the D700 or the D3, there'll never be another book written on that stuff again. Finally. So it makes it certainly better for us, for everybody to be on the same. But,
well, because now we can train on the same version.
Yeah.
When we teach, we don't have to say, well, if you have this or if you have that.
It works, but if you have CS4, it doesn't, and CS5, they moved it to a different menu. So it makes our job easier. But I don't know. I haven't looked at it enough. So first off, my apologies for not looking at it enough. Number two is there are parts of it I like, the subscription. There's parts of it I'm not crazy about. I would like to see Adobe maybe give a discount or a grace period or a window like that says, if in 60 days, you haven't done the free upgrade, or I don't know what it would be. But it seems like there needs to be some kind of thing.
The biggest problem I see with it, there's going to be a barrier to entry for someone who is on CS3 or CS4.
Yeah, especially hobbyists.
And that's who I'm really talking about. For a company, I think it's actually better for. It's not just better for Adobe to be able to plan, because now they have a subscription model. They know how much they're going to take in each month. But now a company knows exactly how much money you're going to spend each month on software. So it's easier for a company. Hobbyists, though, it's hard to swallow. What's $600
a year,
$700
a year,
and then go into the subscription model too.
Oh no, you've got to upgrade. Well, you know
got
what
to
it is?
upgrade.
It depends on what you have. If you have the suite, I don't know.
Yeah,
Anyway,
it could get hairy.
here's what I'm hoping. That number one, this will all become more clear soon. Number two, I hope Adobe makes a special dispensation to be able to get those hobbyists on the subscription plan. Because if you have to pay all that money and then join the $600 a year subscription, hold on, let the cricket sound go.
Oh, hold on. I can't find. Crap! I turned my volume off. Hold on.
I don't think anybody can hear the cricket. Yeah. So anyway, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we have a brand new topic. So our topic is we're going to be busting myths about cameras and photography. So, and I have a story of how this came about, and we'll hear a lot more from Joe, I think, than we did in the Adobe pricing, and perhaps Trey as well. So stick around. We're going to be talking a lot about that, and we're going to really focus on Trey's Thanksgiving when we come back. Don't go away. We're live right here on The Grid.
Hey guys, Tom Bow here. We're at Copper Mountain in Colorado. We're working on a new class on adventure sports. We're going to look at a lot of different things in this class. Everything from high-speed sync fill flash to working in portraits in a ski area environment. We'll look at gear concerns, what kind of pack to carry, how do you work on and off a lift. There's a lot of logistics that go into shooting skiing. We'll talk about getting that classic powder shot. We're also going to do one of the most classic things for ski photography, and that's seaming together a whole sequence of moves. It's absolutely fantastic. It's going to be wild. Should be a great class.
At Adorama, our trained staff share your love of photography and can help you find what you're looking for. Our inventory is stocked with all types of cameras and accessories you need. Adorama has it all. Adorama, more than just a camera store. Visit us at 42 West 18th or at Adorama.com.
Hey, we are back here at The Grid. We have Joe McNally with us, Trey Ratcliffe with us, and we are sponsored by On1 Software. Go check out their brand new Perfect Suite 6. 7? No, it's 6. There it is right there. Their Perfect Photo Suite 6. Go check it out. You can go, tons of information on their site at on1software.com. Hey, so our topic today, I
get so mad when you shake the products when they zoomed in on it.
Okay, our topic today comes from my seminar in San Francisco on Monday. A guy comes up, very nice guy, very well-intentioned, with a list of questions to ask me. And he starts rattling down the list. Is it true that you're not supposed to use 1/125th of a second as your shutter speed with flash? Is it true you should never shoot at f/22? Is it? And so I kind of stopped him. I'm like, where's this coming from? Well, I read on the web.
On a forum.
On a forum. That's the warning sign. Remember this, if you read it on the internet, it has to be true. Okay, anyway.
If you hear it on the internet,
if you hear it on the internet, it's absolutely true.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is the deal, is this guy went through all these things, and he's listing all these different stuff, and he's so concerned about this stuff. And I finally said, stop. I said, look, I know you want to be a better photographer. That's why you're spending all these times in these forums. That's not where you become a better photographer. Go take your camera. Now, this is going to be a wild idea. I didn't say that to him. I said, go take your camera and go practice and go shoot. The time that you're spending in these forums where people are debating such little things and all. So we started talking about it. I thought this would be a great topic for us to talk about all these myths that have been going around. And so we wrote a couple of them down. And so we'll start with one. And I'll let you start with one, Matt, because you have a couple of good ones.
All right, so to me, one of the biggest ones is never shoot at f/22.
I mean, that was one of the ones he brought up.
That was a question, but you hear that one over and over again.
Because it's not sharp.
If I ever post a photo that says shot at 1/25th of a second at f/22, the first comment is going to be somebody that says, "Well, I heard that the diffraction of the aperture of the lens curvature
f/22
is
not
bad
sharp.
at f/22," and you know what? Maybe one day with a certain lens, I mean. There was a time where I think that was a bigger factor, but I don't think that that's as big of a factor anymore. And then what they're talking about is they're saying your photo's not going to be as sharp. You know what? there's lots of people out there that have sharp photos that are shot at f/22.
Go look at any landscape photographer. You know, go look at some of the most famous names, like a man named Bill Ford.
Yeah.
You go look at his stuff, or look at Moose's stuff, right? Go look at the f-stops they're shooting. They're shooting at f/22 all the time. Does anybody ever look at one of Moose's shots, or Joe's shots, or Galen Rowell, or any of these incredible landscape photographers and go, it's out of focus. It's sharp. Joe, thoughts? Just about f/22 in general, because I know you're an f/5.6 guy, but
Well, it's well documented that f/5.6 is my favorite f-stop. No, my pithy rejoinder to that is when it comes to f-stops, I like to sleep around. Any f-stop that comes down the pike that's appropriate for the job is what you should use. There's a role for f/22 as well as 1.4. The numbers are irrelevant. The feel of the photograph is what's important, and occasionally you want to go for that massive depth of field, and f/22 at that point is applicable. Especially with the engineering on the lenses that we have nowadays, I haven't seen any palpable difference in a picture I've shot at f/22 or f/16,
Yeah.
or those kinds of gradations. To me, especially being a publications photographer, I've had my pictures run through dot screens that you could drive a truck through. So as far as that finite kind of, just parsing out the smallest pixel to discuss is kind of pointless. I think you rock and roll.
dang, Joe, that was really well done. You've already earned your keep. If you have to go, it's okay.
Okay, well, I'm going to Trey's brother's house.
Aren't we all? Hey, seriously though, that was beautiful.
Is what it is, the cameras, everybody is passionate about them, and I understand why. But at the same time, it's just a tool. There was a wonderful war photographer named Donald McCullen who once said, actually one of my favorite quotes about photography and hardware. He said, "I only use a camera like I use a toothbrush. It gets the job done." And that, to me, sums it up. I don't get emotional about that stuff.
Yeah, very good, thank you. Trey, your thoughts?
Well, about this f-stop question, I spoke to one of these big classes that has all these photojournalist students in there, right? And I was going through my portfolio, putting up pictures, so on and so forth. And remember, I'm totally self-taught. I don't really know how people learn photography. So I put up a photo, and a gal raised her hand, and I called on her, and she said, "What f-stop did you shoot that at?" And so it really took me back, because it made me think, oh, maybe that is the most important thing. Is that what people learn? Do they learn that the f-stop is one of the most important things about the photo? And it makes me wonder, I don't really understand how people learn. And then I look in magazines, and underneath each picture always has the f-stop and all these stats. I think, are people overthinking this?
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
But you know what, Matt will tell you, people love that stuff. If we post a shot on and I'm sure you do on G+,
right.
You post a shot, and everybody's like, "Okay, Scott, share the beans. What was the f-stop?" We're like,
yeah.
What does it really matter? If I shot it at 1/250th of a second at f11, what does that tell you?
Right. And it's not that we're keeping secrets or anything.
That's fine.
It's that why not experiment and guess, when actually there's many various combinations of f-stop and ISO and shutter speeds that can accomplish more or less the same look. So just guess, and your own path to arrive at that f-stop is the right path.
Yeah.
And so partially I always try to put myself into their shoes, and I do get it in a way. I mean, if you're just learning and you see this beautiful portrait with a real blurred out background, and people like to know, do I have a lens that can do it? This guy must have shot that at 1.4, right? So I could see somebody wanting to know the f-stop.
Yeah, but there's other things that have to do with depth of field that aren't based on just your f-stop, because you can shoot at f11 if you zoom in close enough.
And separate and everything.
Yeah.
So, but to me, that's actually part of the learning process. It's, what f-stop did you use? Because that happened, and you teach the landscape workshops. You've been out on the landscape workshops where
I love your landscape.
There's a tree in front, and then there's a beautiful scene that's way off in the distance, and people want to know, do I shoot that at f11? And they don't really know. So I can understand from that. It's the rules that come up. Never shoot at f22.
Right,
that's where I have a bigger problem with it. I don't mind people asking, hey, what should I shoot? Because they're learning. You got to kind of, they're out there once. They don't want to screw it up, so they want to know what f-stop should I shoot at. But the rules,
You know what? I kind of respond as a general, and it sounds a little facile, but it's actually pretty true. I teach flashlighting a bit, and I'll demo something with a dome diffuser on, and someone will ask me, "Do you always have your dome diffuser on?" And my reply to that is, I never do anything always in photography. And that sounds like a stupid answer. It sounds like I'm trying to cop out. I'm not. It's so situational that what works for you today won't necessarily work tomorrow. And you just have to roll with that punch.
Yeah, because you're going to be in a different location tomorrow. And I guess that kind of feeds into the f-stop. It's, well, why did you use f11? You know what it may have been? It may have been that that's what it was set at when I took it out of the car.
Exactly.
Sometimes it's a very deliberate thing. It's like in my seminars, I show one of this behind-the-scenes shots. And I'm using this very large softbox. And I go, do you know why we use that softbox? Because that was on there the day before from our shoot. It's like sometimes the things they're not just so, In other words, it didn't even really matter what size softbox we used for the particular thing that we were doing. It wouldn't matter if it was 21 inch or 39 inches, it wasn't really going to make a difference in the shot. So sometimes I think, like you said, these things are situational. It happens, in the location you're at, one day, depending on the subject. Right. Maybe it's a guy and you don't want the diffuser on. Maybe you want a little edgier light. It's just, you're right, it's not. Okay, hey, we have some comments come in. I want to grab one of them here because this one was another one of the comments. Terrell Wood says, please talk about filters. I'm still confused. Do I need one or not? Then it says polarizing UV WTF, which I think stands for Washington Terminal for Ferries. Take you across to the island off the coast of Seattle. Okay, so
I think you're right.
So okay, let's start with UV filters.
Filters.
I want to hear what these guys say. I know I have my thoughts. So let's start with Trey. UV filter, yes or no?
I hardly ever shoot with UV filter. I usually don't use any filters at all. I go commando. But what I will do on occasion is, if in the right in the right situation, a UV filter is good, But if you keep that on your camera too much, you will lose light, and by the time you get home, and even shooting it raw, you may not be able to recover some of the stuff you lost with that UV filter on. So pretty much, I would say 99% of my whole portfolio is using no filters.
Joe?
Same. I don't use filters either for a photographic effect, generally speaking, nor do I keep them on my lenses as protection.
Protection, because that's the only reason I would put a UV on there. I watched Lori XL drop her camera at a DLWS on the asphalt outside the hotel, and we heard the glass go, because the way it hit, and we're all gasped, and she picks it up, and it was the UV.
Nice.
If that UV hadn't been on there the way it fell, it'd have been the lens. So for as many stories as there are about that, but that's the only reason I would use a UV filter because if you scratch your real glass, bye lens. Yeah. You scratch a UV, screw it off.
Also, the fact is too, if say a Nikon or a Canon lens are high-end lenses are engineered really, really well. And oftentimes what you may be doing, not necessarily always, there's some good filters out there, but oftentimes the filter is a lesser quality glass.
Right.
And why get that very expensive lens and then baffle the effect of it?
Now, I buy Nikon brand Nike stuff for my stuff. Their stuff is pretty good. I mean, but I don't think I really even have a single lens right now that has a UV filter.
I don't.
on it,
I got rid of them 5 years ago.
Yeah. Did you?
Yeah.
All right.
Stop.
All right, Joe, you don't use any other filters? You don't use polarizers? You don't use anything?
Occasionally I'll use a polarizer, but most of the time when I see a use for a polarizer, I don't have it with me. So there you go.
Joe, I've noticed though you travel with quite a lot of gear. And I don't know that a polarizer would really take up that much room.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, you travel in like a truck.
But if you want
it's got a point. A FedEx truck follows you everywhere you go.
Well, here's another couple of photographic axioms, as long as we're dealing with the never do this, and the lens you have on at that particular moment is always the wrong lens.
It is. That's true. That's a fact.
And you can bring all sorts of stuff with you from the studio, but the one thing that you forgot is the thing that you need. So there you go. Murphy's Law.
There you go. True. All right. Hey, let's look at some other questions. When looking at a photo, I'm always more interested in how someone came up with any given concept and what f-stop they use. Very, very good. I am as well. Can you discuss watermarking? This goes, watch, shh, bam. All right, watermarking. What are your thoughts? Because you saw my thoughts, I'm sure. I had a very different look at it.
Well, yeah, I think watermarking is redonkulous. I think we live in a world now where people can so easily remove a watermark that it doesn't really matter whether or not you have it on there. I find that I never watermark anything. I'm all Creative Commons. I upload maximum resolution stuff all the time. And there's so many incredible online tools now, from Google Image Search to TinEye, that we can very easily find if anyone is using the image wrongly. And we still have a very robust licensing system. Everything's going very well there. And we find that legitimate companies don't steal photos. Like American Airlines is not going to go steal my photo of Indonesia to use in an ad campaign. They always figure out who the original creator is, they contact us, and they license it.
Now, you gotta realize that Attorney Ed Greenberg would argue with that, because he represents people who've had images taken from every major company you can think of. Because it's maybe corporate policy of American Airlines not to take the photo, but the designer that laid out the ad for the ad agency that is hired by them does it on a pretty regular, not on American Airlines, but it's done very, very regularly.
In these exceptional cases, these asterisk type situations, you know, we've had one of our photos taken and stolen by Time Magazine, and they used it in an ad for their campaign. Well, of course, we take all of our stuff and we put it with the USPTO and the Copyright Office, so everything is copyrighted with them. It doesn't have to have a watermark. So we're still able to sue Time or sue anyone that takes our image
without the watermark. Yeah,
you know,
the watermark doesn't protect you.
The watermark doesn't. And really, I really should have mentioned this, and maybe this is just me, but when I look at an image with a watermark, all I can do is think about that watermark. My eyes go straight to that thing, and it bothers me. And if I see that it has any kind of cursive or whatever, I just immediately think this is some kind of low-rent wedding photographer, and it just bothers me. I cannot.
Play devil's advocate here, because I agree, it bothers me too. So let's take this out of big corporations that are stealing photos, because most of the people watching, I'm guessing, aren't selling photos to American Airlines. And take it down to the portrait photographer. He does a senior portrait, okay? You deliver a web gallery, web-sized proofs, 640 by 480. Now, they're not watermarked. That kid then takes them and puts them on his Facebook page, which is really all he cares about. He doesn't care if there's going to be an 8x10 hanging on. All he cares about is he's got a picture for his homepage on his phone, and he's got pictures for his Facebook page.
Well, I would say that's a pretty sorry client then. I mean, that's not my business, you know. I don't have clients like that.
Not too late.
But yeah, if you're going to have if you do a deal with a client and the client is stealing your stuff and not paying you, well, I mean, I'm not sure that watermarking your solution is to get a better clientele that's not going to steal your stuff and is going to pay you for the work you do.
You know what? He's right. But you said something about the text on the images. Jay Maisel has a great thing about that. And he cautions you not to let a sign wind up in your image. He says because we are pre-programmed to read text first. And so when you put a watermark on there, you instantly read the text. Just like you said, you're distracted by it, that's because it's first. Hey, I hate to say this to you, and I really do, but Meredith, our floor director, is pointing at the clock that it may be time for you to go. You can't get like 4 more minutes, 3 minutes and a half.
My chariot may turn into a pumpkin.
His chariot may turn into a pumpkin. All right. Hey, you know what we're going to do? We're going to take a short break. We got your comments are pouring in. And I do want to say this. We're getting some really good stuff. David Hodgin says, I saw on the internet that Joe McNally loves HDR and is giving up strobes for it. We're going to talk about that and a whole lot more.
Hey, real quick, Trey.
Yes.
You got a brand new app out, right?
We do.
That's right. Your app just came out. Like, when did it come out? Yesterday?
It came out just a few days ago.
A couple days ago?
That's right. And I don't mind plugging it because it's a free app. It's called.
We wouldn't mind you plugging it if it was a paid app.
It's called Stuck on Earth. And it's the ultimate guide for photographers, for explorers, and daydreamers. We'll help you find millions of places around the globe to go take incredible photos.
All right, now that he said that, I got to play with it for a few minutes. It's very, very clever. It's very well designed. It looks very good. I love the voice at the beginning. It's intoxicating. No, it's very well done. The whole thing is very good. Go check it out. It's free. It's available for the iPad only. And here's why. And I asked Trey about this at lunch, and his exact words were, it's because I'm an elitist. That's what he said.
That
you were at lunch show, you heard it?
He said Android suck, and he said I'm elitist and everyone should have an iPad.
He said his words were, I want to make an app for the 1%. His words, not mine. Hey, we're going to... He said none of that. Yeah. We're totally teasing him. He said absolutely none of that. In fact, you said you're looking at having an Android version.
Yeah, our plans are to make Android, iPhone, and a web version, maybe something for the Mac OS store. But it's, you guys did this with your Light magazine.
Wait, Mac OS only?
Maybe Windows.
You're so elitist.
Maybe Windows web app as well. Maybe
good.
A Chrome app.
Sure, there we go. Chrome app would be nice.
That's elitist if I ever heard it.
Well, Trey, thank you very much for joining us. It was great to have you here, even if for just a short time. It was great.
Thank you.
And when we come back, he will be gone, and we're going to spread out and enjoy the love.
Yep.
All right. Stick around. We have a whole lot more right here coming up on the grid. Trey will be gone. Bye, Trey.
Bye, Scott.
Bye, Trey. Bye, Trey. Bye, Trey.
Hi, my name is Jack Rosnicki, and I want to talk about a very serious subject, photographing children. And I tell a lot of secrets about how to get good reactions from kids, how to have kids look like kids. We have them jumping and going and twirling and doing a lot of fun things to get the kids to look like kids. You'll know what to do if a kid shows up with a green tongue. It was a lot of fun. You'll enjoy it.
Hi, my name's Dave Black. We're working with Sports Action using speed lights. We started out track and field with a sprinter coming out of the starting blocks. Then we got some great feature shots of baseball from a variety of angles. Had beautiful twilight sky behind him, and then we'd like re-illuminate him with a speed light setup. We moved on to faster action with motocross, where we had 3 great professional motocross riders for us on a super course. We used a combination of crosslight with the sunshine and then the speed lights coming in to make a real dynamic look. It's exciting. You'll learn a lot. So come to KelbyTraining.com and watch my Sports Action with Speedlights video. We'll see you there.
Hey, we are back without Trey. Our band is called Without Trey.
Hey, I just want to let you know.
Yeah?
Because Trey's not here anymore. During the break, I went, and I am now commando.
Oh, good. Thanks. That's great news. Hey, a couple of important things.
I'm out of here.
Couple of important things. In an hour and a half from now, we've got something very special. It's why Joe's here in town today with us. So we recorded a class called A Day with Joe McNally, and it's done very much along the lines of A Day with Jay Maisel or A Day with Jeremy Cowart. And we spent the day with Joe. We started off at your house the night before the shoot. Mm-hmm. We packed up all your gear, went through how you pack gear. We drove into Manhattan. We did a location shoot. I asked you a lot of questions, and you gave some very, very candid answers to some things even I wanted to know. And it's really, really wonderfully well done. If you want to get and you know what I thought was great about this? Number one, you made some stunning images, which I think we all kind of expected, but you did everything with such a simple setup. 1 and 2 flashes tops.
Right. Yeah, it was a fun day. It was a great location, great dancers, which is something I love to shoot, and great questions.
So we're broadcasting it one time for free to the public today at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I hope that you'll join us. Joe will be here taking your questions just, about Joe, so we won't go off onto these topics and things. Joe says you can ask him anything, too. So if you want to ask Joe, we'll be back in this very room here just a couple of hours, or an hour and a half. It's really going to be a neat night. We're playing the entire broadcast. Joe will be answering questions in between segments. It's going to be a lot of fun, so I hope you'll join us. You know what else I hope you'll do? Will you help us spread the word? We're only doing this one time. It's very, very special. So we want as many people to be able to enjoy this all over the world as you can. If you would, send it out on your Twitter accounts, on Facebook, on Google+, MySpace. Just kidding. Any place that you have on your blogs, any place you can help us to spread the news. Because I think it's going to be a really, I remember the reaction to Jay Maisel coming into the studio and doing the same thing, which is why we wanted to have you here today, because it's what you've done is really neat. It's a unique look into your whole, not just your workflow, but your work. because we spent some time in your gallery, you know, in the gallery you have in your home, in your studio, I guess you would call it. But and the stories that you have and the stuff is just amazing. And I really learned a ton that day. And so I hope that you'll enjoy. If you're into Hot Shoe Flash, or if you're into hot guys.
No, it was an honor. It was an honor to do that, and it'll be fun to take questions later. So please, you know, give us a shout. Absolutely.
Let's take a question now. Here's one that we hear a lot. You're never supposed to shoot people with a wide-angle lens.
Yeah, I hear that a great deal. Some folks, you know, are schooled that way, that, you know, there's a certain length of lens that you use for a portrait. A telephoto is the more classic length of lens, say from 105 on
up, yeah.
You know, and I break that rule all the time. And, you know, occasionally I'm taken to task for it, and occasionally I do risk, I'm very frank about it, I risk some distortion. You know, but again, shooting for publications like the National Geographic, I'm generally speaking not after a headshot, I'm after context, I'm after someone's story.
You're doing an environmental portrait.
Exactly. The totems of that environment help me tell the reader who's not there with me what this person is all about. So I'm oftentimes working horizontally, and I'm coming in, say, with a 28, 24. Sometimes I get pretty radical. I'll even be in the realm of, you know, 17, 18, you know, which is a little dicey. And you do get some edges. You know, you have to be really careful of the edges of the lens. But again, this is one of those rules, if you will, or you know, mandates that I think is well worth breaking on a regular basis, or certainly not to be afraid of, and certainly don't listen, you know, when someone says, "Oh, never do this." You know, that's not why we got into this. We got into this to experiment.
Well, you have to know it, and you have to know why the rule's there. You have to know what to look for about a wide-angle portrait that could possibly not be pleasing to people, but then know when you can get away with it and know when to break it.
Exactly, exactly. I mean, and to me, you know, risking that touch of distortion, maybe in an elbow or a shoulder or something like that, is well worth the ability to capture context.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep.
Now, I don't want to say something to everyone watching out there, because I think this is important too, because I occasionally will do the same thing. I'll shoot with a 20. Brad and I just did a shoot a week ago for one of our classes, and I shot with a 24, and I was 24 the whole time. I just want to say this, is the reason why I think that rule is out there is because while Joe can shoot with a wide-angle lens and get tremendous results, he is a magical unicorn of photography. If you go out and shoot with a 24mm lens and people look funky and it looks really weird, just remember that you are not a magical unicorn of photography. So I always say, and I said this to my class on Monday, didn't I? I was in San Francisco, I said to my class, you're not allowed to use Joe McNally as your defense for anything. If your sentence starts with, but Joe McNally, stop. Because he is it's like from an alien planet. He does things and makes things work like the Nikon flash system that with line of sight flash.
Hold on, can I do?
Go ahead. With line of sight flash. Oh, I use a Nikon flash system, but I use Pocket Wizards and stuff. But anyway, he does things that normal people can't do. So no one is allowed to ever go, but Joe McNally blank, because this conversation stops right there. So
rejoinder?
Yes. Rejoinder.
You have to raise your hand first, too.
Yes, Joe?
I appreciate the kind words, but literally, that's the great thing about digital photography, especially. I call it the democracy of digital. You know, the technology is available, the lenses, the cameras, anything that anyone uses out there is the same thing that's available to you, to me. It's a question of how you apply it and how you use it. So this is a wide open enterprise. And the only thing I might have on somebody outside of the horn in the middle of my head, as you referred to, is that I've just been either dumb enough or tenacious enough to keep doing this probably longer than most people, or certainly longer than has been advisable.
All right. Well, Joe, I mean, it's just, you do things that are just, I mean, I'm amazed at the stuff that you do. Make sure you check in, stop in tonight. You can ask Joe all kinds of questions. We have some more questions for Joe here. Let's see. Here's one from TNT Good. All rules are made to be broken, and that's where creativity comes from. And that is absolutely true. If we did nothing but follow these rules, like you kind of just what you were just saying, that's not what we got into photography, right?
No, we got here to stay outside and break the rules.
Absolutely.
Face it, we're unsupervised children.
Let's see what it says. Joe, do you ever use a light meter, or do you have it built in after all these years?
Good question. I tend not to use a light meter anymore.
It's a good myth, too.
Yeah.
You hear that quite a bit, too.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's a major change, really. I mean, I used to go out with 2 meters, a spot meter and an incident meter, and I use them religiously. But I don't anymore because, you know, I've got this magic thing called an LCD now, you know, and I've got tools inside the camera like my blinking highlights, etc. And also the camera meters themselves are so much more sophisticated than they used to be. I grew up with camera meters that did not work. You know, so much so that when I was shooting F2s back in the day, I had the photomic head, which was the housing for the meter, removed, and I had them replaced with plain prisms because I didn't want to listen to the camera meter because I was oftentimes confused.
I had mine replaced with cream cheese. Hey, Joe, you said something though. This is another myth. Can I throw one in? Just what you just said? I hear this all the time. You cannot trust what you see on the LCD on the back of your camera.
Man, this is maybe heretical to some folks, but I use the LCD all the time. Don't let that get around.
I do too. I use it all the time. And you know what I find? It's darn close to what's there. Is it exactly what's there? Not exactly, but can you judge shadows based on what you see on the back of the camera?
I like to think I can, and that's not to say that occasionally I'm not surprised or disappointed when I get back to the studio and launch it onto the big screen. But I do find that moving fast, it's not practical, you know, to be hemmed in by considerations such as tethering to a computer or something like that. You're shooting a run and gun job. The LCD is just another tool for you to use on the fly. It gives you great ballpark information.
It does.
It does. It really does.
It's not exact. It's not super precise. And I think there was a time, Joe, when the first monitors they're not what they are today.
Yeah,
you buy the LCD monitors in today's camera. I don't care if you're buying a Canon 2 Ti or you're buying a Nikon D3S. The quality of the LCDs today, but people are still passing on this stuff like they just came out, because some of the older ones and some of the consumer ones, they'd have terrible color casts up, and people would say, you can't judge exposure, you can't judge color, you can't judge anything. I think actually you can do quite a bit of that today.
So
what do you do?
That leads to another myth, which is, how often do you use the histogram? You have to use the histogram on the back of the camera.
You have to use histogram because you can't really tell from the monitor. Baloney.
God, am I going to have to go to confession after this, or what?
Yes.
You know?
Joe, I need you to talk about this.
Bless me, Father, but I don't use my histogram. Too often, anyway. I mean, again, it's a tool. It's there. It resides in the guts of the camera. If you're desperate or curious,
use your histogram.
I mean, absolutely. It's a great thing to kind of make sure that your even tone and your file is all sorts of perfect. But the thing is, for me, I rarely shoot a perfect file. If you look at any of my work, it tends to be on the saturated side. I tend to shoot deep. So if I was to be a slave to my histograms, I would look and freak out because my histograms are all falling to the left.
To the left.
It's all deep and rich tones. I use a lot of blacks, on a dark background and this and that. So if all I'm saying really is don't be a slave to it. Don't let it dictate the feel of your photograph. Follow the feel first. In the background, it's a great tool. I got no qualms about it. But always use the histogram. Sorry, did I spray on you?
No, it was lovely. When was the last time you used the histogram? Not the blinkies, not the highlight warning, but like you actually pulled up the histogram and looked at it.
Oh, it's been probably a couple years. You know
why? You don't have to use the histogram?
Why?
Because you're the magical unicorn. That's why. All right, Matt.
The last time I used it was when you accidentally hit the button and on the back of the camera and it changes you from the large screen view to the histogram. And I look at it, I'm like, crap.
Yeah. All right, another one I'm going to ask you both. This is a really good one. And this guy asked this question too. Same guy. Turning VR on and off, does it really make a difference? And this is for Canon IS or Nikon VR, is the vibration reduction. Because now, I can tell you what Nikon says, but I want to hear what you guys think. Joe, what do you think about, do you really pay attention to whether your VR is on or off at any point?
I do.
Just leave it on all the time?
I tend to leave it on. I used to be more conscious of turning it off when I locked down on the tripod, but now the technology is such that the camera actually senses that it is locked down and the VR automatically shuts off, at least in certain lenses. So I'm less conscious of it than I might have used to be. Certainly shooting from helicopters and moving the camera around, it can, in dicey situations where you're really using low, very slow shutter speeds, I think it's another instance of having a great tool in your bag. The cameras have evolved to a point where they're a complete package that can give you lots of options. How about you?
If I have a lens that has VR on it, VR is pretty much on all the time. And if I go onto a tripod, 75% of the time I forget to turn it off.
Right.
And I've never noticed any quality difference.
And that's what I was just going to say. Would any of us really notice the quality? And you know, you'll read on the web, and Trey had a great thing he was talking about forums earlier. I wish we'd gotten around to that, but because what Trey was basically saying is you go to a forum and you don't really know anything about the people in that forum. They can sound very convincing. They can be very, very good at math. They can have really researched this thing, or they can just be they're a beginner spouting what they read on somebody else's forum as if it was a law. But I'll read a lot about this on forums. Nikon says that once you're, I think, above 1/500th of a second, you can turn it off. You can just turn off VR. It's not helping you. It's designed to help you in low light, and at 1/500th of a second, you're not at low light. But I don't think any of us with the naked eye, and man, does that need to be said on the web, is the naked eye, because you'll let these people blow things up to 900% and go, see, look. See, I proved, look, there's the proof. You can see that the pixels have degraded, but you can't see with your eye. Who cares? Nobody goes, here's my picture. Oh, here's a loop.
And whenever you go to a website, and there's several websites out there that have lens reviews, and whenever they review a lens and they look at, f2.8, f4, f8, f11, and they look at the two lenses together, and you never see the pulled back shot. All you see is the shot at 1,000% magnification. And I think that speaks to a lot of people out there as well. You and I were talking about this yesterday, but what are people using these photos for? For many people, I don't think they're getting off of Facebook and your iPad and the computer screen. And at that magnification, you're never going to see any
your picture's
of that.
going to be this big. This is probably the biggest most people will ever have their image seen. This big. No matter what it is, it's going to wind up being this big. Joe, if I go to your portfolio on the website and I'm looking on my laptop, how big is your image going to be? Yeah, big, right? That's as big as it's going to get. So it's nice to have a 31 megapixel camera because you're never going to, I got a medium format. And how big are my pictures?
That big.
1 megapixel. So I guess to finish up the VR thing is, I don't think it really matters that much whether you turn it on or turn it off. I don't think you're going to notice one way or the other with the naked eye. Whether you forgot to turn, just like you said, you've never noticed any. You can't go, oh man, all these images are messed up. I left VR on. How stupid.
I would just leave it on.
Yeah.
You bought a lens with VR on it, leave it on.
All right, Joe, ring flash, a good investment or passing fad for the portrait lighting? Discuss.
I think ring flash. I've come full circle on this. I used to think ring flash was kind of like a fad, but now I actually use it fairly frequently. It's like a little wake-up call for the eyes, and it's obviously centrally located right at the lens, and if you just pop it and use it in moderation, I think it can be a really valuable tool to fill a portrait that otherwise might be too shadowed. Even at such low power that it doesn't even look like it's filling at all, it'll put just a minor spark in someone's eye. And also, too, on the flip side of that, if it's your only light, it's just great fun to play around with.
Because the shadows and halos.
And fashion guys and folks who are shooting bands and stuff like that.
Hollywood.
That pin you to the wall kind of quality of light is actually kind of cool.
So you think it's here to stay?
Absolutely.
Joe says here to stay. All right, Moose. Moose says photographers read too much. If they read at all. Very good. Glenn Dewis, our buddy from the UK, says, what have I learned most from Joe? To push myself, to not be afraid to just try it and get out there and do it. Joe, when it comes to editing, however little, do you do it yourself? I think Glenn is probably talking about post-production editing. So do you do it yourself?
First and foremost, Glenn is a great guy.
Isn't he a great guy?
Great shooter.
He is a great shooter.
I know a modest bit of post-production myself. I use Aperture a great deal to make some moves here and there, but that's a really simple program for me to use. Photoshop for me is a wonderful tool. I feel like someone once described Photoshop as this giant mansion, and I'm standing in the lobby. There's many rooms to explore, and I haven't really gotten to them yet. The fact is, we shoot so much, and we're on the road such a great deal. I have an incredibly talented and valuable first assistant who's a fine shooter in his own right, Drew Gurian. He'll oftentimes look at a photograph of mine and that comes out of a take, and he said, let me work that a little bit. And the moves he'll make on it will be really subtle, and I find myself looking over him in Photoshop, and I'm learning things. I'm on a learning curve with it. I'm a very slow learner, but I'm getting there.
I know where you can take some classes. Yes. Online.
I know.
Okay.
We know a guy.
We know a guy. We know a guy who knows a guy. Hey, we only have a few minutes left here today with Joe. I wanted to just talk about, I'm going to just bang you with just a couple of these. That doesn't sound good.
No.
Hit you with a couple of these. Well, I was going to say bang out a couple of these. I forget it. Anyway.
I was a little horny.
Yeah. Oh, I was thinking, where did you come up with that? Okay.
Sorry.
All right, Joe, never shoot at F22. You talked about that. RAW versus JPEG. Do you always have to shoot in RAW?
Not always. I think it depends on your client and ease of editing, speed of editing, how fast do you have to deliver. Most of the news shooters that I know, wire service guys, newspaper guys, never go near RAW. Because
time to
it chews up time.
Matt?
I shoot RAW most of the time. I switch to JPEG if I'm shooting sports.
Me too. Okay, we talked about that. Always shoot 2 stops above wide open. Can I say something about that?
Sure, please.
If you bought a 85-1.4 and you're shooting at 5.6, why'd you buy an 85-1.4?
Yeah, exactly. You could get away with a 2.8.
If you bought a 7200 f2.8, why are you shooting at f8? Mm-hmm. Why would you shoot at something, and not like it's from 2 stops from f, but you know what I'm saying? Why would you shoot at f5.6? Why would
Sure.
All right, so how do you feel about that? The clearest, I guess what they're saying is the cleanest
sharpest
possible, sharpest, would be.
The better lenses are designed to be absolutely sharp at their maximum aperture. I mean, I've had incredibly sharp results. In fact, it's kind of an exotic lens, but one of my favorite lenses is a 200 millimeter f2.
I have that lens.
Yeah.
You made me get that lens.
It's an awesome lens. I do theater work and dance work, and so that extra f-stop is very important to me. It's an expensive lens, all that sort of stuff.
I remember that too.
But the thing is, at f2, even at f2, it's one of the sharpest lenses I've ever used in 30 years. So I use it at f2 all the time.
All right. A guy was telling me, the same guy
got another myth.
Said his myth was you have to shoot, you should not shoot at 1/125th of a second with flash. He said you really need to shoot at 1/250th of a second because people will be blurry. He read this on the web, though.
I'd love to be honest about this in the most direct and forceful language I possibly could, but
that's not like you.
That's not like you, Joe.
No, I mean, any shutter speed is okay. I mean, I've shot sharp pictures with mixing flash at 1 second. It depends on the nature of your subject. It depends on the situation. If you have a fast-moving, dancer or athlete in the studio, you're probably going to want to max your sync speed out at 250. Or even go to high-speed sync. Right. If you're trying to establish a certain degree of flash and blur, you're going to be down in the low shutter speeds, and you are going for blur. You don't always do anything.
There's not a law?
No, there's no law.
You know what I think was the best thing of the show today? Was when you said you don't always do everything. And I think people really want. I think people really want us to go, the rule is this, always do this, and they don't have to think. They don't have to be creative. They can just follow the rule.
Yeah.
And what you basically said was, this is a creative. Being a photographer is a creative experience. It's not a science experience.
Right.
There's science to it.
Sure.
But the art of making photographs is an art.
It is. There's no right and there's no wrong, which is the wonderful thing about it and the frustrating thing at the same time.
All right, we have 3 minutes left. I just got to say, I have another one. Oh, you have one?
I have a myth that I don't think is busted.
Okay, quick.
Let's get your opinion on it. So, prime lenses sharper than not prime lenses. So, every one that I've ever used is sharper than a zoom.
I would disagree, to be honest.
Yeah.
That used to be true.
I think that was true.
Zoom lenses, when I was growing up, they were not anywhere near as sharp as primes. Now I think zoom lens technology is such that they are incredibly sharp. And again, if you want to sit down and compare like a prime 35 with the 35 millimeter setting on a 24-70 millimeter lens, I mean, life is too short.
Yeah.
They're both really sharp, you know? And you would use a 35 for a certain reason, because you have access to 1.4, or because you want to travel lighter and you don't want that big hunk of glass in your street shooting, you know, that the 24-70 is a fairly sizable lens. Something like that. There are other reasons you might do something like that, but in terms of relative sharpness, I think...
Don't buy it because you think it's sharper.
Now, kit lenses, just really quickly, a kit lens that you're getting, you know, at a kind of a hobbyist sort of price.
Yeah, thrown in there.
There is absolutely a correlation between price of glass and performance of glass.
True.
I'll say that.
Kit lenses stink. I know you can't say it, I can say it. Kit lenses, when you get your kit lens, the first thing you do is take it off and throw it in the garbage. Okay, here's one. This one has shown up in the last 3 months so many times I can't believe it. Can't change your white balance unless you shoot in RAW. I see that everywhere. Oh, does it say that there? No. Oh, you're just pointing there? Okay. So the, let's see, okay. I'll answer both of those real quick. We only have like a minute left. Okay, so you can change the white balance on JPEGs. Absolutely, positively, please don't buy into that. There's a slider for changing it. There's a pop-up menu for changing it. You absolutely can change your white balance. Please, whoever's spreading that one, that one's way off. All you lose if you shoot in JPEG is you don't get the pop-up menu of presets. But the sliders to change it are still, the presets are just a shortcut. Yeah. Hey, we are completely out of time. Let me read these last couple of ones. SWE Swede Photographer says, without all great things and pictures from Joe, I wouldn't be a photographer today. You are my biggest inspiration in a good way, not a creepy way.
Not creepy.
Very nice. Okay, David Hodgins asked, do Sigma or Tamron sponsor this show at all? Oh, okay. Oh, you put that there. That's funny.
David Hodgins said our name brand.
Our name brand Nikon lens is really that much better than off brands. I think it really depends. I've used a Tamron lens here last year that I thought was really terrific, and I think that the pricing was good. It was absolutely very affordable. Hey, it's. She's
prizes.
Prizes. Oh, we have prizes. We're doing
I was going to say
prizes.
the prizes. They get 2 webcasts today.
Oh yeah. So yeah, we do have a couple of prizes here to give away. Nancy, how are we giving these away, real quickly?
You know what? We'll just
That
tweet.
means she doesn't know.
Do the tweet. Grid Live. Tweet about the show. Tell people about it. Send the link. And
Heck, don't tell people about the show. The show's over. Tell people about the webcast tonight.
Okay, we'll do that.
There you go.
We'll do that. I heard on the Grid Live that there's going to be Joe's webcast is at 6 p.m. Eastern, and the webcast, just so everyone knows, is at kelbytraining.com/webcast. So go out there and tweet about the upcoming webcast at 6. Make sure you use the Grid Live hashtag so I can find you, and they will win. What will they win? Tell them what they'll win.
They're going to actually win. We actually have the Perfect Photo Suite 6, the entire thing. We saw this in person. Well, I saw it in person at their headquarters. This is unbelievable. Stop it, Matt. This thing is unbelievable. This is a revolutionary product. If you want to learn more about it, go to ON1Software.com. Someone's going to win it today. We also have RC's book. Oh, we have Trey Ratcliffe's book. Trey's book, A World in HDR. We're going to be giving that away. And this book, which it's not that good. This book won more awards and sold more copies than this is an amazing book. The Moment of Clicks by Joe McKnight. You sign up for the winner too?
I'm not so sure. We're not giving
that
this
book
away.
is good because you were the editor.
We're not?
Scott.
No.
Why?
Because it's RC's. It was just there to talk about Trey had a book.
You're not getting
That
Trey's
book might be RC's book too.
Are you kidding me?
I tell you what.
No, this one isn't.
Joe will send
you
him
can
one.
sign this one. No, we got some.
Okay.
We'll because nobody bought it, so we have a bunch. Anyway. No, seriously, that's an incredibly brilliant book. You know, it's just absolutely brilliant. All right, and we're going to give away a copy of Corporate Photography by Joe McNally. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's a lovely man, and we're going to make sure that it flies. Let's see, it does. You can get that, and we'll be giving those away. Hey, we are completely out of time, aren't we, Brad?
Yeah.
Yeah. We had a great time. Thank you, Joe, very much for joining us today. We are thrilled. I am thrilled to see. I haven't seen the whole broadcast yet of your new class. Of course, I was there when we taped it. So I was there when we taped it, and I was driving home, and Dave Moser asked me, my buddy Dave asked me how the class was, and I go, you know, I've been with Joe on so many shoots, so many DLWSs. You and I have done things together over the years, workshops, and all go. I cannot believe how much I learned that day. I really can't. It was just one of those days where I left going, this is great. So please join us in about an hour, right here. Anything else? Where can I learn more about you in the meantime? JoeMcNally.com?
JoeMcNally.com/blog. That's my blog.
How big will the pictures be when they go there?
Oh, about this big.
About that big. There it is, right there on screen. There it is. Hey, I like that picture. You make a great book cover. All right, we will see you guys later. Thank you very, very much. And got a whole much more to say, but we don't have any more time. So, Nancy, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Oh, we do have to say one more thing.
Go ahead.
Next week's Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
We're not going to be here.
Yeah.
And we have
Don't
another
come
thing
by,
to say.
We're not going to be here.
Tomorrow.
What's that?
What are we doing tomorrow?
Oh,
tomorrow.
God.
Okay, tomorrow we have a special episode of The Grid. We'll be back on our Grid set. Jeremy Coward is here because we're talking about the his help portrait thing. And we're going to be talking about basically how to do your own help portrait, how you can help be a part of this amazing, wonderful charity. I don't know what you would really call it. It's not a charity event. A movement. It's a movement about helping people. So I hope that you will join us for that special episode tomorrow at 3 o'clock, Nancy? 2 o'clock?
2
o'clock tomorrow, Eastern Standard Time. Tell your friends, Jeremy Coward live in the studio. Joe, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Matt, you're a beautiful man.
You're welcome.
That's all I got. Take care, everybody. We'll see you guys in about an hour right here in the same very room. Take care.
This week's episode of The Grid is sponsored by Impix. Shoot today, upload tonight, we ship tomorrow. Manfrotto. Imagine more. On One Software, software that gets you back to shooting.
Adorama, more than a camera store. And Tiffin, helping create the world's greatest images.